This time, on the Farm2Table Direct Show, we delve into the fascinating and vital world of traditional herbal knowledge and safe practices in herbal medicine. How can ancient wisdom passed down through generations of traditions guide us in a time of misinformation and unsafe practices? Join us as we sit down with Dewayne Hall, an expert whose unique heritage and expertise illuminate the path to safe and effective herbalism.
Dewayne is a national speaker on all things homesteading, from wild crafting to animal husbandry. He has studied microbiology and has a degree in agriculture. Dewayne is a Cherokee citizen, and as a child, he spent much of his time on the Navajo Indian reservations, making him an expert on all native and traditional medicines. Dewayne can also teach on so many other topics, from meat goats to herbalism to emergency preparedness, rainwater collection, and so much more. Dewayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. It's an honor.
We sure appreciate you, taking the time to be with us tonight. I know that tonight's topic is pretty important, and I think it's a timely topic. Being that we're going back to school and parents are preparing for back to school, and I think what we've got to tell them tonight is going to be important for preparing the immune systems of their children. And so without further ado, I want to just kind of get right into it, Dewayne. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in herbal medicine?
Well, that started years ago. My mother was the youngest of my granddad's children, and I happened to be her oldest. So about the time my granddad decided to stop farming, and I was big enough to follow behind him. And so I became my granddad's shadow. And I did not know this at the time, but I'm the one that my granddad decided to pass everything down to. And so as we would take our daily walks, whether it be cutting wild sunflowers out of the field because the land was in what at that time they called the soil bank, and we had to keep it at a certain level. He and I were cutting sunflowers, to fishing, to hunting, to just living life. My granddad was always going, okay, you can eat this plant, you can't eat this one. This one's poison. This one looks just like it. This plant's good for this, for medicine. We could do this, we can do that. And so I thought as a kid, everyone's granddad did this. I didn't know how special it was for him to be passing this knowledge down to me, and so I was really impressed. I remember one time that really stands out in my memory. My granddad was very important to me because he was a man that, well, he accidentally shot his right hand off when he was 19 out squirrel hunting, providing for his family. He had a double barrel shotgun, come in, wooden porch, had it up on top of the barrels, slipped off, double hammers, hit it, shot his hand off. So he went to college, played college football, raised 6 kids, and farmed with one hand. Okay. So I never knew what disability meant. And so we were out squirrel hunting one day in the fall of the year. And my granddad says, would you like some honey? I'm going, yeah, I'd like some honey, Granddad. He said, okay. And by this time, I'd learned not to ask a lot of questions, just listen and go. Okay. And as we were walking down through there, he started picking certain plants. And I didn't know what he was doing, but I was watching him. And he picked these plants and he put them up in his crook of his arm right here. And he went to rubbing the arm that he had a hand on, running them through that plants. And we walked a little while further, and sure enough, right there up in the tree was a big old bee tree, his honeycomb hanging out, everything. He knew where this was at already. That's why he asked me. And I saw him reach his hand up inside that tree and pull out a big, huge clump of comb and never got stung.
So I just have to ask you at this point, what was he doing when he was rubbing those plants? What was that about?
He knew what plants to rub on his arm to mimic the life of those bees, that they didn't see him as an invasion.
Oh, makes total
Wow.
sense.
Camouflage.
That's right. He was camouflaging himself. And I mean, he'd been teaching me all these things, but still at my age, I'm 65 years old now. That impressed me.
It's very impressive.
It is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a beekeeper now, and you know, I'm not sticking my hand off in the middle of a hive like that just to see what they do, especially
where's your
reach in and
faith?
grab some comb out.
Where's your faith, Dwayne?
Might sting a little.
That might.
But,
So that was my early on learning from my granddad. I got to spend a short time on the Dene or the Navajo reservation, and I got to learn a little bit of their medicine. And then later on, I had the opportunity. I studied on and off for 25 years under a Cherokee medicine man before I was ordained into the Native American Church. And so I've made it my life's goal to study and learn as much as possible, to look at what the Creator has given us here on this earth. Because everything we need is here.
Yeah. So now, how has Cherokee and Navajo tradition shaped your approach to herbal medicine? How is it different, let's say, than traditional medicine?
Well,
what we call traditional.
What we call traditional, I guess, might be called non-traditional to you.
yeah, you know, we've only had pharmaceuticals for about the last 150 years or so.
Right.
You know, you go back 150 years or so ago and you look in a doctor's bag, and what did you see? You saw herbal medicine in it. Okay. So, you know, we've just gotten away from that a little bit. But what really has impressed me and quickened my heart is that we are to live a natural life. And that natural life is given to us freely if we will respect it, care for it, and use it accordingly. And so that's one of the reasons that's drawn me so close into this, is that this is what to me, this is what the Creator intended us to do to begin with. So, you know, I've learned a lot of things, and now to give you some examples. Aspirin. The natural form of aspirin comes from willow trees. Okay. So therefore, you know, we just taken and synthesized it in a lab. A huge majority of all your pharmaceuticals were first found in nature.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, that and we're going to dig into that here in a little bit, but I mean, that is such a big transition of where they've tried to mimic nature with some not positive effects.
Yeah, that's right. Usually, because when you start synthesizing, you don't use all the constituents that the Creator put in that. So sometimes that brings in problems. Now let me say this right off the bat. One, I am not a licensed physician. I do not diagnose, nor do I prescribe. Okay, that's called a CYA. Cover your anatomy.
Right.
Okay? So I want everybody to know that right off the bat. Now, I am 6 hours away from being a microbiologist. I've studied extensively in the medical field, in college and away from college, both. I just, in my opinion, that's a more natural approach.
Right.
Do you want to take this question?
Yeah, we can. We got a question from one of our people following, Mickey, and said, asked what your grandfather used on his arms to stop the bees from stinging, and said, thanks for sharing your story.
You know, I would love to be able to answer that. and I have gone out and thought about that and walked among the plants to find that. And I don't know exactly which plants they were, and I probably never will. That's probably happened just for me to benefit from that.
Right.
Now, one of these days, the Creator may tell me, pick this plant, and this plant, and you can do the same thing. But as of right now, I don't know. I would love to know that. That's has stuck with me all these years. But I'm
I
sorry to
think
say
you
right now, I don't know.
right. I think you've probably asked the question a lot. So Mickey, there it is. Thanks for your question.
Absolutely. Um, we kind of going to transition just a little bit. You know, you've gained this traditional knowledge from your grandfather and from the Native Americans being on the reservation and all that, and the time of tutelage and your study. Um, there's a big difference in the traditional and modern practices, and I mean, you know, kind of, I guess the difference, or where you see the dangers, you know, in the rise of quote quote as you told us in pre-show, Pinterest herbalist and misinformation about it.
Well, anytime things start to be popular,
Yeah.
people tend to jump on that bandwagon for their own interest, and whether they really know what they're talking about or not. I see people. Uh, they'll take a 48 hours, only 48 hours on the computer, and this company will send you a certificate that says you're a certified herbalist.
Wow.
Doesn't
That's
seem like a lot of
48
time.
hours. Yeah, on a computer. Okay. And I don't know if anybody's used one of these programs that you can get on your phone, Leaf Snap and all those things. And everybody goes, "Oh, I don't need to study. I don't need the books. I don't need to learn. I don't need anybody to teach me. I got my phone." Well, I have found the vast majority it's wrong,
Right.
because in nature there's a yin and a yang. We have plants that look very, very similar, but one is a good plant, one is a healing plant, and one is a poison. Now, that poison could have uses. A good example of that is wild carrot or Queen Anne's lace. Looks very close to hemlock, poison hemlock.
Right.
And if you don't know those little tattletale signs in there that differentiate the difference between them, you could be picking poison and eating it instead of picking wild carrot. And so we've got folks that's out there, and they're looking someone to put something. You know how this is. Just because it's on the internet, folks, doesn't mean that it's right. Okay. There's a lot of people put things on the internet just to get clicks and
Absolutely.
get some notoriety. Um, and so we're seeing a lot of this out there today. There's books that's out. I mean, there's one herb people ask me about all the time right now. "Oh, Dewayne, do you have any wild lettuce? You have any wild lettuce tincture?" And I'm going, "Yes." "Well, I want to buy some." "No, we don't do that." Okay. Those are ones that are reserved for emergency uses under the tutelage of an advanced herbalist, because they can have repercussions. Just because it occurs in nature doesn't mean you can just willy-nilly do whatever with it. Okay.
Right.
And so we see people putting these things out there, and they took that 48-hour class online, and now they've got a certificate. And I'm so appreciative that they took at least 48 hours to learn that much. Okay.
Right.
Just don't
But
seem like enough
that's
at
not
all.
enough to be telling people what to do. Okay.
Right.
Uh, and especially today, we have so many people are on pharmaceuticals, and they want to go in. "Oh, I want to get off the pharmaceuticals. I'm going to start taking this because I read on the internet that this is good."
Right.
Well, did you study for any contraindications? I had a lady the other day. She called me up, and she goes, "Dwayne, what's wrong? What's wrong?" She said, "My blood pressure dropped out this morning." I said, "Well, did you double up on your medication? Did you whatever?" And she's taking pharmaceuticals for her high blood pressure. She goes, "No." I said, "Well, let's go back over what you ate for the last 24 hours. Well, I was having supper last night, and she told me what all she had. And I said, "Is there anything else?" She goes, "Well, I was reading where garlic lowers blood pressure, and I ate me a big old clove of garlic, and it was great. I liked it." And I'm going, that's why your blood pressure bottomed out. You just doubled up on your medication because blood pressure, garlic lowers blood pressure too. And that combined with what your pharmaceutical is, you bottomed it out.
Wow.
So there has to
Right.
be a balance in there. And we there's a lot more questions that we need to ask rather than just somebody said that worked for somebody.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take a question.
Let's take that question with Scott. Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Okay, this is from Scott. It said, with all the information out there, how can the average consumer find and disseminate who is giving us the best and most accurate information? I'm looking for a natural remedies for health.
Well, you know, the first thing I'm going to tell you is pray about it. Okay?
Yep.
You need to seek the will of the Creator. And I believe, in my belief, that when we do that, that person will appear in our life. If we ask for it, that will happen. Now, you can ask for their credentials. You can ask where they learned, how long they've been studying, what they know. So educate yourself, just like you should educate yourself on the pharmaceuticals. Just because they give you something, read what the side effects of this thing are. Most people don't do that. They just willy-nilly take it. You know, you need to take charge of your own health. Whether
Right.
you're going the natural route or a pharmaceutical route, you need to take charge of that. Okay. Asked around in those natural communities. Those natural communities will usually know somebody. This person knows what they're talking about. Like, these people are good. You know, you guys have had Restoration Farms on your show, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. You know, I think those people know what they're talking about.
Right.
Okay. Ashley and Stuart, they know what they're talking about. They're really good at foraging. They know a lot about herbs and stuff. They're well on their way, especially for their age. And I'm saying 65, so I'm saying especially for their age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
I think they're far along there. But you start in that community and start asking people and do some prayer work about that. And listen to your heart. If you feel in your heart that something's not right with this person, I wouldn't follow what they say.
Right.
Okay.
So I just want to back up a little bit about something that you said there. And it was that people should take personal responsibility for their own health. Seems to me that we abdicate our responsibility for our own health to those people who have credentials, meaning to say, we just put our full faith and trust in the scientific medical system. Okay. And I'm not knocking that. Okay. I know that there are a lot of good doctors out there. But a lot of those good doctors are also beholding to their teaching, one. The other thing is that they're beholden to three-letter agencies. And I would say since 2020, a lot of people, including myself, I have begun to mistrust, whether they're looking after the best interest of myself. And the main question here, again, is about abdicating responsibility to
Right.
somebody that's got an MD or another thing to their name, simply because we've been taught over this period of time to trust them with your health.
You know, there's only one thing we should put 100% trust in,
Right.
and that's the Creator.
Amen.
You know,
Amen.
someone comes to me. I'm not here to tell them what to do. I'm here to guide. That's all
Right.
I'm here for. I'm here as a guide, and it's just different out there, and we need to get back to that. Okay, we need to do our own soul searching and looking as to what might be good for us, and test those things out before we just jump into something. I mean, my gosh, guys, look on the TV. You know, I mean, I don't watch much TV, but you know, when I do, half the commercials are, "Did you take this? Well, here's this lawsuit." You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, every day.
Every
And
day.
that stuff passed the FDA at one time.
Right.
That's a good point.
That's some stuff that my own personal watching and reading and stuff about the the fact that in some of those agencies they profit from these medicines that they approve. And so things are making it through that maybe shouldn't make it through or wouldn't otherwise. And I mean, that's just I don't want to dig too deep off into that particular issue, but it's just the fact that knowledge of the fact that we can't trust everything without verifying. Reagan's old statement: trust but verify. And there's
And
a
let's
reason when I get a medicine that it's got this many pages of information, that goes with it.
And you know, if you start taking herbal remedies for different things, different herbs, you should study up on those. Okay, and know. But one of the big things we should do is we should stop treating the symptom and
Absolutely.
start treating our, I shouldn't say the word treat. We should, quit looking at the symptom and look at the cause.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
if you take care of the cause, the symptom goes away
Yeah. Usually how it
because it's
works.
healed. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so circling back to a point that you made about learning and not abdicating our own responsibility to understand the medicines that we might be considering taking. Um, you emphasize the importance of deeply learning about a few herbs at a time and really going deep on that. Can you explain why you think that?
Well, if you're wanting to learn, and I think everybody should learn some level of herbalism. Okay. I'm not saying you need to become an herbalist, but you need to have a working knowledge of these to a certain extent. And I see people that come to me and they want to learn 100 plants in 6 months. Okay. Well, my apprenticeship with just one man was on and off for 25 years. You're not going to learn all that. And when you really talk to the herbalists, especially if they're native trained, and they don't have to be. You go all over the world. When you look at I'll call it the Aboriginal societies.
Right.
Okay, they're going to do the same teaching. Okay, the same teaching is learn to have a relationship with that plant. You can feel the energy of that plant and what that plant does. Learn that plant in every stage of its life. Be able to identify it in every stage of its life. And so I used to tell people, if you're going to learn this, pick 5 plants, 5, and learn those plants really well. Learn what type of environment they grow in, because that's what they like. Don't try to put them in something that they don't like. Let nature take care of it. So learn that environment that they grow in. Learn what they look like as they're coming up. Learn what they look like is that right before they flower. Learn what they look like when they flower. Learn what they look like when they go to seed. Learn what they look like when they shed their seeds. And then learn what they look like when they're asleep during the wintertime. People say, why do you want to know that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that tells me if I'm out searching a place and I know what's left of that plant looks like, then that tells me where I can find that plant next year.
Right. Okay.
We should learn those things. But we've gotten away from that because we don't spend enough time in nature.
Right. We've definitely got away from, all of that. And now, what about when we're reaching out to, I know that there's books, I know that there's YouTube, Facebook, and we can learn from different people. But what about in-person human learning?
There's just, you can learn and you can study books, but there's not a substitute for what we call a two-legged teacher.
Right.
Okay. Because you can only learn so much out of a book. That two-legged teacher can teach you not only what's in that book, but what they have experienced and what they were taught that their teacher experienced and what their ancestors experienced. You can't write all of that in a book because the only thing you can count as a truth is what you have experienced yourself.
Right.
And so when you have a teacher that will walk you through and help you identify those things and teach you little bitty nuances of the plants and how to care for them and how to love them and how to harvest them respectfully and how to be able to care for them once you harvest them and then how to make the medicine out of them. Those are all things that it's just hard to do without human interaction.
You brought that up, and you were talking about the where to find a plant, what the plant is, and it goes by the difference between wild crafting and herbalism, and can you kind of explain that to us?
Oh, there's a huge difference because everybody comes to me to go, I want to learn 100 plants in the next 2 weeks, and I want to know
Right.
where to find them, what to do with them. No, herbalism is the use of those plants and their uses in helping people with their health. That's herbalism. Wild crafting, on the other side, is finding those plants, knowing where they live, how to harvest them respectfully, how to be able to prepare those plants, say how to dry them, how to store them, what to do with them, but mainly how to be able to find them in nature. I remember, if y'all remember several years ago, the big craze was echinacea or purple coneflower.
Right.
All right. And man, it was just, the root was selling like crazy. People were buying it like crazy. And I remember driving down Highway 20 and I saw, because I knew there was a huge, the whole side of the road was just covered in purple coneflower out on the prairie. But it's right next to the highway. And the people were out there digging every plant because they were in it for nothing more than the money.
Right.
They were digging every plant and they were going to sell that to someone. Well, that was right next to that highway. All the toxic fumes off the gas, all the pieces of the tire, all the oil, all the toxic stuff, the rainwater that comes off of the asphalt, those plants absorb that. Those people had no ethics about what they were doing. Not only did they pick an inferior plant that should not have been used for medicine,
Right.
they killed the entire patch.
Wow.
Because they did not harvest that respectfully. See, we will never harvest. I will not harvest a plant until I see that plant 4 times. I have to see it 4 times. Okay. And when I harvest, I will never take more than a fourth of that particular plot. And I always harvest from the inside of those surrounding plants. So that way the seeds can fall in and grow and the seeds can fall out and grow. If you pull from the outside, you contain it. If you pull from the inside, it will still continue to grow. And in our tradition is we always send a prayer to see if we should harvest some of those plants. And we give them an offering of tobacco or a bead or sage or something like that. That's in respect. That's just like when you sit down to eat, you offer a prayer, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we offer those prayers before we ever get it to the table, before we ever take it.
So it just comes down to simple respect,
Yes.
and then also, only respect. I say respect for the plant and nature and what it's provided, but honestly, even respect for yourself, because like you were saying, taking it off the side of a road where who knows what was getting on that, it's just not good practice. I can see that as not good practice.
So I want to interject here
Yes,
just a little bit because we've had several people who's wanted to ask questions to you, Dewayne.
Yeah, it's a good place to do it.
Yeah, I think we need to take just a second to try to
go ahead, bro.
Catch up with some of that. And I'm going to start back up here with Mickey, and Mickey was saying.
She got that one.
Oh, we already got that.
Yeah, you got to scroll down a little more.
I'm sorry. Here we go.
Right there.
Right here.
Yep. That was it right there. Yeah. Oh, you had it over. Yeah. You already had it.
Yeah, anything for an extremely fatty liver.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to say I am not a licensed physician. I do diagnose, no do I prescribe. Okay. So those of you that came in late, okay. One of the first things is we got to go back and look at what's the cause of that fatty liver. Okay. There may be a lifestyle change. Okay. Diet, stress level, different things like that. But the next thing is let's look for herbs to work with that. Dandelion is good for the liver. We've known that. But if I was in that situation and I was going to be taking something, the number one herb I'm going to take for a liver is going to be milk thistle.
Milk thistle. Okay.
That's what we say is the only known herb that will cleanse and rebuild the liver. Okay.
I'll write that down.
All right, that's a good one to know.
Well,
Mickey,
and if you don't mind, let me talk right here about that one right quick. Is we have we live in such a toxic environment today,
right?
And your liver is a major cleanser of your body,
right?
Okay, and everybody ever so often should go through and help cleanse. Be kind to your liver, okay? Right. Because your liver's keeping you alive, people. It's getting rid of the crap that you live in and that you eat and everything else. So be kind to that liver, okay? And there's some detox programs. I use a product called Zeolite, Zeolite. And in combination with that, we use burdock. That helps clean the blood. And then we go with milk thistle for the liver. That's a 3-step approach to doing some cellular detoxing.
Okay. So I want to try to move along because like I said, we have 2 or 3 other questions to get to. And Mickey again was asking a question. Do you think it's beneficial to handpick all of your own herbs rather than to buy them in a market? And I would add, if so, why? What's the compare and contrast?
Well, if I'll wildcraft some of the herbs that we use. Okay. Mm-hmm. If there's not a lot of that plant that year, I won't pick it. I'll leave it. Right. They go, well, you need some of that. No, I'm not going to take that. Because what I did, if I took that plant, is I'm hurting the future. Right. I've got to think down the road. So if I don't see a lot of that plant this year, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to look for other sources. You can grow your own, but you've got to learn the environment that plant likes. Okay. The other thing that you can do is you can buy them from reputable herbal exchanges. I don't get a kickback or anything, but one of the companies that I really like dealing with, I've dealt with for years on plants that we don't have around where I live, or there's not enough there for me to harvest. It's a company called Mountain Rose Herbs. Okay. They vet everyone that they buy from. They know their practices. It's mainly, most all of it's organic. They're very good. They'll tell you who wildcrafts, and they really know their wildcrafters that do go out. Okay. So if you can pick your own herbs and go through and do those, I would suggest doing that, because what that does is that everything in this world has a frequency or an energy to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And when you interact with that plant, that interacts with your health. That's one more stage in your healing process that you got that you might not have gotten otherwise. Now, not everyone can do that. And if they can't, that's okay. But if you have the knowledge to be able to do that, and you have the ability to be able to do that, I would suggest that.
Good. That's good advice.
All right.
Next.
Move on over to Scott. Scott said, what is a good list of plants that you would suggest to study first? Best for health.
Oh, my gosh.
There's so many to choose from. But.
That when I wrote my book, I'm going, what plants do I keep? What I put in this book? Okay. And I kept wanting to put more plants and more. And I go, Dwayne, you got to cut this thing off. And I ended up putting 96 plants. Those are the most commonly used. Okay.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
But I want folks to understand that herbalism is not just plants that you have to go out into the wild and get. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That the vast majority of herbalism is in your garden. Okay. For example, I brought some
Purple, red onion. Yeah.
an onion.
Onion.
It's one of the best things in the world to detoxify. I eat onion every day. Okay. Even during one of the plagues, I can't remember which one it was, but a lot of the people that survived because they took a slice of onion, put it on a saucer around in the room, and that onion would absorb the bacteria and everything else. Now, I had to throw the onion away, but that kept those folks from dying. But you use this to detox. Another one, garlic.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're growing a garden, thyme, rosemary. I mean, I can go on and on of what you can grow in your garden that are all medicinal herbs. Okay. I make a product. Everybody goes, oh, did you come up with this? I tweaked the formula, but my gosh, the formula's been around for eons. It's called fire cider. Okay.
Fire cider. Okay.
Yeah, it's an old kitchen recipe because people knew that food is our medicine.
Right.
And they knew that certain foods did certain things to help people get well. And I brought some so I could talk about it a little bit here. If you could look at that.
Ooh, no, it's backwards.
Oh, it's going to be back. Okay, I'll read it to you.
All right.
This is the ingredients: apple cider vinegar, honey. We know the healing properties of honey. I use elderberry instead of turmeric. Ginger root, horseradish root, onion, garlic, cayenne, jalapeno, lemon, orange, rosemary.
Wow.
And this stuff's good for just about whatever ails you, especially in the cold and flu season.
Okay, can you hold that up one more time for the audience? And Mr. P, can you pull his screen up?
Yeah, pull him up big.
Pull him up big.
There we go.
There we go.
It's backwards, but it's fire cider.
Right.
And right there from Red Feather Farms. So, yep.
Yeah.
And,
okay, thank you, Dwayne.
Yep.
And the guys, the thing about it, you can make this yourself. It's easy to make. Okay. My formula that I use is an adaptation of a lady named Rosemary Gladstar. She is like my herbalist hero. Okay, her and Barbara O'Neill. Bless Barbara's heart, she's passed on now. Okay, but Rosemary Gladstar, fire cider's been around. People put different things in fire cider, make it different ways. You know, that whatever they may want to add to it, as long as it's good for your health. But you can make this at home.
Right.
Now, to do it right, it takes 28 days to be able to make it. Then you can pour it off. You know, so it's not, I'll make it today and take it this afternoon. But, you know, that's pre-planning. That's why we're talking about boosting your kids' immunity right now. It's things just like this we should be starting before they go to school.
Right. So, Wayne, I just want to back up just a little bit and kind of drill down on what Scott was asking there about a list of plants that would suggest to study first. And what thought that I had in my mind is that would it be that, for example, a lot of people are either insulin resistant or they are having problems with insulin? Would they start with a particular ailment, if that's really what they're trying to treat, and then look specifically for something to deal with those ailments, or is there a different approach?
That's where I would start. If there's something that you need to work on personally, find what those herbs are and work with those. Just it's insulin resistant, let's say. You know, one of the plants that a lot of people use for that is a plant called sunchoke. Okay. Now understand, if you start to grow that, everything, it's invasive. It takes over. Okay. But you may need quite a bit of it. Okay. So that's a plant there. People with allergies, it doesn't grow very well where I'm at, but I really like nettles, stinging nettles. Okay. I could go on. It kind of depends on where you're at and what your situation is as to what would be the herbs that I would consider. Uh, the first thing, is if you're not growing things like onions and garlic and, rosemary and thyme, start learning those things. Start with that garden first if you got a garden.
Right. So, keeping on that topic just a little bit. So, what if you're not really suffering from any particular ailment, but you just want to have like a kind of this daily or an ongoing like set of things that you would just do all the time for general overall well-being?
I have like 1,000 plant elderberry orchard.
Right.
And because, I harvested elderberries today. Uh, I harvested some from behind the house back there, a little patch that I've got there. I grew up with them. Okay. I grew up eating them. Now, they're beautiful in color, but they don't taste that good. Okay. But my granddad always had me eat some. Okay. Because they're really good at boosting the immune system, helping the cardiovascular, a lot of different things. And then in the English folklore, the plant is not called elderberry. The plant's actually called elder, as in someone that's older.
Okay.
And they were all in all the English gardens. In a corner of that English garden was always some elder plants, because they viewed it and they gave it the name elder because it looked after the family.
I see.
The fruit from that looked after the family. And that's a big thing. And elders, they're easy to grow. That would be something I would do. Look at just some of these plants that's easy to grow. And start some of them and go with those. My goodness, if you've got a pasture of any size whatsoever out there, you probably got yarrow in it.
Right.
Just identify that. Yarrow is really good for a lot of things, but I would probably start on what's needed, boosting their immunity of the family, cuts, scrapes, things like that. Yarrow's good for those things. Plantain, it's all in a yard. Chickweed, it's every spring. Cleavers is every spring. Those all are good for stuff. Mullein, you'll find mullein, in old rocky soil. Matter of fact, I'm fixing to go here in the next few days, and it's the right time for me to harvest quite a bit of mullein. And I have a patch that I'll go harvest from. And I only mullein is a biannual plant. It's a 2-year plant. I will only harvest the 2nd year mullein.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to address Chris here just a minute. It's Chris Thompson.
Okay.
And of course, she's asking, about the recommendations in the book to help us learn. And what I want to say is, Chris, if you'll give us a little bit of time, we're about to circle around to that topic. But I want to highlight one here by an F. He was talking about herbs you recommend to relieve palpitations or hot flashes for menopause. Now, again, I know part of the answer to this, and that is that he does not prescribe or diagnose people. And but I guess the way to ask that is that if you were suffering from this or someone in your family was, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I'd want to do is I would want to find out, are the palpitations, and I assume we're talking heart palpitations, okay? Are they a symptom of the hot flashes, or are they a symptom of another health issue?
Right.
Okay. The hot flashes are menopause at this point. Hot flashes is a symptom of menopause. That can bring on other issues, or can bring other issues to the forefront. Okay. So I'm not going to address the palpitation. That would be something that would need to be addressed in a more personal setting. Okay. But overall, as the hot flashes, depends on one of the things I was in Oklahoma City this weekend. I spoke this weekend and had a booth there, had people come and talk. I mean, I talked for 2 days straight, just about. And hot flashes was one of the big topics that come around. Menopause. A herb that we use. There's several different herbs we use. Squall vine for one, but probably one of the main ones is going to be black cohosh. But again,
can you say that carefully again? Black
cohosh.
cohosh. Okay.
Cohosh. Yeah, there's a black cohosh and a blue cohosh, and they do totally separate things. Okay,
Right.
both are cohoshes, but they do totally separate things. But that's used a lot in there. But there's even more things to do. You know, you've got to check for any type of pharmaceutical contraindications. Is it going to mess with anything out there? Okay. Well, just for example, let me just pull it up here. So you've got a possible side effect of nausea, vomiting, symptoms of low blood pressure such as dizziness when taken in large doses, and black cohosh can cause miscarriage. Okay. Don't take black cohosh if you're taking drugs that lower your blood pressure.
Okay.
Okay. So there's things you got to know that there's contraindications. At that point, we may need to look at another herb. Okay.
Right.
So we
So
always have to work with those.
does that highlight the importance of yes, we shouldn't abdicate our own responsibility for our own health, but there are times that sometimes we need to reach out to someone to help us to understand what we're dealing with, and it's more of a one-on-one personal situation by situation basis that would have to be talked over by you and somebody else who knows what they're dealing with.
Yeah, so someone that's been extensively trained. You want to talk with them. You want to feel them out. You know, do you trust them? Do you feel that they have your best interest at heart? Or are they just trying to sell you something?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think that goes back in anything is that, and even what you said before about praying about it, but knowing, having that confidence in them and that trust that that is earned. Bro, would you back up? There's a question there that's kind of triggering up to Duncan family.
Duncan,
Yeah.
I was about to come back up to that.
It's, we talked about milk also with the fatty liver. Ask how much it would help with cirrhosis of the liver.
It helps cleanse and rebuild the liver.
Okay.
Right.
And it will help. I'm not going to say it's going to heal everything and make it back when you were 18 years old. I'm not going to say that. But you know what? Any improvement's better than what it is today.
That's right.
Okay?
Right. And if you don't mind that I'll share a little bit of a personal story. And our mom was diagnosed with fatty liver, and it was non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cirrhosis.
Right.
And she was in a fairly late stage whenever they caught it. So I think that's really key to what you can expect with using any type of medication. But I really want to double down on what Dewayne said, is that doing something for it. First of all, treat your liver, treat it well.
Right.
All right. Because it's taking care of you, first of all. Second of all, stop intaking things that can harm it and start inputting things that can help it. And I know that after that late stage diagnosis, my mom lived, I believe it was another 10 years or
At
so.
least, yeah.
Yeah, because she took steps. Okay. And so, I don't know the particulars, Duncan Family Farms, about, cirrhosis and what stage you're talking about. But, just I want to just double down on what Dewayne was saying there about taking care of it at whatever stage you're in. You're going to do something that helps you to have a little bit better health or potentially prolong your life if it's not just absolutely right at the end.
And there's something about prolonging life and also and quality of life.
Right. Absolutely.
We don't want to prolong agony and
No.
despair. We want to have the life that we have here. We want it to be quality. So there's a lot of things that go into this. We one of the things people don't do is we don't listen to our body, and men are the world's worst.
Yes.
You hear tons of ladies talking about taking herbal this and herbal that, and I don't feel good here there. You don't hear men say that. Men, we're what are we taught to do? We're taught to suck it up and go on.
Right.
But
Right.
what usually happens when we suck it up and go on is after a while it gets to the point that there's nearly a point of no return. There's a point that nothing's going to fix it. So we need to listen to our body and recognize those things while they're still fixable.
Right. Okay. With that, Dewayne, we need to kind of be moving on through the show.
Okay.
And for those of you that we did not answer all of your questions there, at the end of this program, we are going to be giving you information as to how you can reach out to Red Feather Farms, Dewayne Hall, and also take his recommendations as to what we're going to do. So hang in there, guys. We're not ignoring you. We're trying to be very selective about what we choose here and answer your questions to the best of our ability. But there's more things that we need to get to, and right at this particular time, we're about to get in what we were promising we were going to tell you, and that is how you can prepare your children's immune system for the upcoming school season. And I think what you're going to find out on the other side of this little break that we're going to take is some information that we had heard earlier that it just did not really occur to me. So with that being said, bro.
Yep, absolutely. All right. We will go right now. Absolutely. Farm to Table Direct Coffee. Are you ready for the freshest cup of coffee you've ever tasted? Well, welcome to Farm to Table Direct Coffee, your destination for specialty coffee roasted to perfection. At Farm to Table Direct Coffee, we offer a wide variety of premium coffee beans, and unlike the commodity coffee that is on the shelves at most stores, our beans are hand-picked for ripeness. Available in several packaging options to suit your needs. The process is simple. Place your order, and our expert roasters get to work. Your coffee is roasted and shipped the very same day, ensuring peak freshness and flavor. I tell you, it couldn't be easier. From placing the order to receiving notifications throughout the process, Farm to Table Direct Coffee keeps you informed every step of the way. For the freshest custom roasted coffee, visit our store at farm2tableDirectCoffee.com. That is farm2tableDirectCoffee.com, and experience the difference that the Farm to Table Direct Coffee can make your morning routine. Farm to Table Direct Coffee, from the farm to your table, the freshest coffee guaranteed. Right there is the QR code. Scan that right there, and it will take you straight to the page. Thank you very much.
Okay, now getting back into the cold and flu season coming back up and the back to school things. It never occurred to me until we had a conversation the other day, Dewayne, about preparing your immune system to go back into what you've called and I understand as a petri dish, basically, of biological mess that the school system would be in any large crowd, obviously. So I'm just going to kind of jump off into that and let us know during this cold and flu season, since it's approaching, what are some of the ways people can use herbs to help them prepare their immune system?
Okay, well, let's start off with the first thing.
Right.
Always the first thing I'm going to tell you is diet. Okay. Lots of sugar. Kids love sugar. So do adults. We love sugar. But sugar is an immune suppressor for our system. So we've got to watch our diet. We've got to watch what we eat. Okay. And I used to teach school. And I saw it over and over and over. And I see it now. I know the time's coming. Okay. because everybody's going to send their kids back to school. And within a week, everybody's going to be yelling, oh, my kids are sick. And the next thing you know, they're sick. And they just pass it around. Okay.
Right.
And it is. It's because we send our kids back to school. They've been out running around, or they've been home, and they haven't been out there help building that immune system up. And we stick them back out there in school where there's a sick kid or two, and they infect everyone. And now everyone's affected. It's just, it's a domino effect. Okay. So we need to look at that. It happens every year. I'm like, if we know this happens every year, why don't we take care of it ahead of time? Circumvent the issue. So there's several things you can do. The fire cider, that's one of them. Okay. That helps boost the immune system. All right. Another one. Now, some kids don't like that because that fire cider, in the name, it says fire cider. It's got a little kick because it's got horseradish in it. It's got jalapenos in it. It's got a little kick.
Cure what ails you.
It will. It will. It's kind of like Granny Clampett. She had that stuff that she didn't want to take, but it gets you over it, right?
Yeah.
But it's got that image of Granny running around.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all remember Granny Clampett? She always had that bottle up in the cupboard. It was for medicinal purposes only.
Fire water.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like the taste of fire cider. Those that don't like any spicy, I would. That's not something for you. And the other thing is, this is elderberry tonic. Right. This particular bottle happens to be 1/4 elderberry juice, fresh pressed. I do not cook my elderberries. Now, granted, if you're buying those from Europe that's dry, it's got a high cyanide compound. You're going to have to cook it. You're going to have to cook it to negate the cyanide. But everybody understand that once you get things over 160 degrees, you start changing the molecular structure and degrading the biological and enzyme components of that. So when you go to boiling it, I know you put your cinnamon in your cloves and all that stuff in it, and you go to boil it, you're making a flavored drink. Is it going to have some medicinal? Yes. But you've killed a lot of the medicinal properties. The American Sambucus nigra, which is what we have here in the United States, it's native here, has less cyanide compound than apple juice does on the store shelf. Okay. I had a lady tell me one time, you're going to kill people telling her to eat that. I'm going, honey, if I was going to kill people, I'd be dead a long time ago because I've been eating them by the handfuls, all my life.
Right.
So Missouri did a study on it, and they went and improved it, But this has got elderberry juice, apple cider vinegar, which is one of the 7 healers of the world. Apple cider vinegar, especially with the mother in it. You want that little cloudy thing in there with the mother in it, is wonderful. Okay. Disease grows in an acid environment.
Okay.
And when we bring our body to an alkali position, disease doesn't affect us. And there's 2 major things that will do that. And they're both acids, but they will change our body to alkali, and that is apple cider vinegar and lemon juice. Okay. That's one reason every time I go to a restaurant or wherever, I'm always getting I want lots of lemon. Okay. Right. One, it helps negate the chemicals in the water that's in municipal water. And I'm just boosting my immune system. I'm helping. Of course, that lemon's got vitamin C in it too.
Right.
So elderberry, apple cider vinegar, honey. I'm a beekeeper, so I have natural honey, and I use dark honey. The darker the honey, the more medicinal the honey is. Okay.
Why is that?
Well, because it has what gives it the darkness is the pollens and the resins that they collect off the trees. That's why clover honey tends to be real clear, because they're just pulling nectar. They're just pulling the liquid. Okay. But when you put them out so that they have to go to the woods and the wildflowers and everything else, they're pulling all these different pollens and nectars and everything else out there. So that honey's going to end up being darker. Your fall honey is usually even darker. Okay. But the darker the honey tends to be always the more medicinal. And to me, I love it because it has a deeper, richer flavor to it. It's not just sweet. Okay. And then the last component in this, in this particular, I've got 4 different formulas of this. And the last one is organic black cherry juice.
Organic black cherry juice.
because that helps with gout and it helps with joint pain. And especially coming into the winter season, people's joints hurt because of the weather and things like that. And so, I'm trying to package things up to help people with all their issues. Okay. So that's it's actually called an oxmel because it's vinegar extracted. All right. The apple cider vinegar is one thing I showed you. Let me see. Most of you have heard of echinacea, purple coneflower. Okay. That helps boost the immune system. This is a tincture. This is grain alcohol extracted. Okay. The other, y'all bear with me. I'll make a tincture out of elderberry. Okay. And to give you a guidance here, if you took an herb and made a cup of tea, let's call that 1 unit. You make a tincture properly, 1 drop is equal to 10 cups of tea.
Wow.
And essentially you have an indefinite shelf life. That's why I like tinctures. It's so much easier to dose with. Now, this you see, whoops, here it is.
Yeah.
Elderflower.
Elderflower. Mm-hmm.
Most people talk about elderberry all day long. The flower is more potent than the berry. But it doesn't have that purpley look and all that stuff to it, So, and that appeals a lot for folks. But if I really got to get after something, and I'm going to take an elder product, I'm taking the flower. Okay. Another thing that's really good, and you guys can make your own colloidal silver.
Okay.
Colloidal silver. It was used extensively in hospitals for years until they started copyrighting antibiotics, and then all of a sudden silver didn't work.
Right.
A couple of years ago, my wife had both her knees replaced, and I was her caregiver, and she just essentially wore all the cartilage out of her knees. Is what she did. Mm-hmm. And I was there with the home health lady when she was pulling the bandages off, and I looked at the bandage and I said, "That's got silver impregnation in it, doesn't it?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "This particular doctor is the only one that she knows of that does that, and his patients all recover so much faster."
Wow. Interesting.
So, back in even in the Civil War, World War One and Two, a lot of your soldiers would put a silver coin in their canteen to help kill bacteria and stuff. But that's when we had pure silver.
Right.
Yeah, you want to use 99.99% silver.
Right.
Okay. Because you don't want to use the hydrolysis and leach out the other metals and stuff in it. There's another product. Well, here's another one here. Helps with allergies and stuff this time of year. Bee propolis. Which one of the things that we extract out of a hive because it has those pollens and resins in it that help microdoses for that. And then I've got one. If you're tough enough to take it, it's called Hot and Nasty.
Sounds tough.
Because it's hot and it tastes nasty, but it'll fix just about whatever. Okay.
Make you forget about it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole blend, but I mean it will it tends to work on lots of different avenues there. So those are some things that I would look at. I would start preparing for those. If you think those kids are sick, buy you some onions up and put you a saucer in each room and put a little slice of onion. And you gather those up daily, throw them away, do the same thing, do that. And I know people are going to think I'm a little crazy, but if anybody knows what this is white sage.
Okay.
It's been medically proven to kill 99% of the bacteria that the smoke falls on.
Huh.
Okay. Cedar does the same thing. If you want to go to the Middle East, this is frankincense.
Oh, okay.
They knew this stuff worked.
I'll be honest with you, Dewayne. Whenever I've seen that in the past, to where to where they would light something and then they would just wave it out around in the room. And, you know, honestly, and I'm confessing something here. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's just hocus pocus. Why are you doing that? But things have really changed. You know, it used to be that people really downplayed this type of medication or medicine or treatments.
Yep.
And because we were all science based. And then since people have become more and more ill through over prescribing medications to individuals, and I would say even since COVID-19 and all the things that's happened, there's been a move back toward traditional medicines.
Yes, yes. Well, if you want to go reading in the Bible, it talks about using frankincense in the temples,
Right.
Mhm.
okay, for purification. So, I mean, and guys, every culture has these things.
Yep.
You go to South America, they use Palo Santo, or you go around India, they use sandalwood, Middle East, it's frankincense and myrrh. The Cherokee used mainly cedar because white sage didn't grow there. It grows out in the plains.
Right.
Everywhere in the world, there's things to do. That medicine's there.
Right.
But those would be some of the things I would do. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
Take baths every night. Okay. Now, especially when school starts, I'm not a proponent of taking a bath every night. Now, because what you have bacteria on your skin, you can do a little spit wash bath, okay? But there's bacteria on your skin that is good for your system, okay? But if you're around a heavy exposure of bacteria and stuff, you want to come in and cleanse that, get that off of you. They'll put those clothes somewhere so the bacteria that's on those is not going to, because you got to think it's going to contaminate you. So especially for a couple 3 weeks, pay attention to what we're doing.
So I'm going to circle back to the onion because I thought, that was really odd whenever you had
First
said
mentioned
something
it,
about
yeah.
right. And is that for collecting bacteria in a room? Is that the reason that the logic behind that?
That's the logic behind it. You can also take onions and plant them on toxic ground. Now, you can't eat the onions, but in a few years, it'll clean all the toxins off the ground. So not only does it absorb toxins, it absorbs bacteria. You have a lot of people, that, I got sick from a summer barbecue. It was the mayonnaise in the potato salad. No, it was probably the onion that you left sitting out.
Huh.
Because it draws it in. And then you go to eat it, and you just put it in your system.
Note to self, because I love onions, so I'm going to have to remember that when it comes time for cookout.
Right.
Yep.
So you said something in our interview the other day when we were on the phone, and I found it to be extremely interesting. And I'd heard some about it before, but that is that when you're treating yourself for immunity purposes, that it's really important to get the herbs or the plants from your local area. Is that true? And if so, why?
Yes. Yes. We should always use things from our environment. That's just like honey. You want honey from a radius of about 50 miles from where you live, or at least that has the same ecological conditions, because that's going to give you the pollens and the resins and everything else that you're living in, that your environment's in. I don't use it. People say, "Oh, do you use so and so, which is a Chinese herb or whatever?" And I'm like, "No, I don't, because it doesn't grow here."
Hmm.
Now, there's some herbs that we have here that they have over there that, but I try to use what's indigenous to here, because this is where the Creator put us. This is the air we're breathing. This is the things we're living on right here. So therefore, we should be taking things from here. That's another, I want to put a little plug in here for farmers markets and for your local farmers. We should be eating food from these local farmers or growing it ourselves, because that's our environment.
Right.
And that will supply us what we need. So we should do that.
So the other day, whenever we were talking about that, really resonated with you, and I'll tell you why. Is because when when I fly overseas, I always get sick. I mean, it's not even a question of if I'm going to get sick. It's just when, at what point during that trip am I going to get sick?
Right.
And
Yeah.
the reason that it resonated with is because I'm going to an environment to where their bacteria and their environment is very different. And my immune system has not been exposed to it long enough for me to build up an immunity to that area. Is it
That's right.
related to that?
You're exactly. Well, look at what happened to Native Americans with cholera and smallpox. Killed by the
Right.
thousands just because of a few blankets.
Right.
Because their system was not ready to handle that. And that's happened all over the world in different cases. But when we go to a totally different environment where there's a different set of pathogens that our body is not used to working with, then we're going to be more susceptible to it. Always. I was I was in Oklahoma City this weekend, and people would come up and talk to me about this, and which, I mean, I'll take my fire cider and stuff, but when I'm doing something like that, I mean, I don't care. I'm going for this hot and nasty. I'm pulling out the big hammer. Okay, and I start taking that 3 days ahead of time while I'm there, and for at least 3 or 4 days when I get back.
Wow. Really,
Because
really
I
all that.
was around hundreds and hundreds of people, shaking hands. Didn't kiss any babies, but I was shaking hands.
Right.
So I had promised Chris a little bit earlier we would get to her question, and I wanted to kind of save it toward the end because I knew we were
Right.
going to address that, and I know that you've written a book, and and their path has to start somewhere. Where would you recommend that they start their path? Would it be in a book, reaching out to someone who can teach them? And if, knowing that there are some unsafe and I would even say dangerous, because I remember the other night we were talking about ghost pipe, and that you said that that people were recommended and people were getting off of their heart medications and jumping into ghost pipe. What can you say about that?
Well, again, I would suggest, first off, don't follow a Pinterest herbalist.
Right.
Somebody that, took a 48-hour course. All right.
Right.
I said, Rosemary Gladstar, my hero. Barbara O'Neill. Now, you got to be very careful with Barbara O'Neill because I suspect I see these things on Facebook all the time. Shows her up there talking and doing things, and it's a voiceover, and it doesn't match. And I think it's a Chinese company that's trying to sell a bunch of crap using some of her videos.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
go to YouTube. Make sure the mouth matches up that you're getting. Okay.
Right.
But I mean, she's had wonderful, wonderful teaching. I've listened to tons and tons of that stuff. There's several books out there. I didn't bring a lot of the other books. I mean, my gosh, I've got a huge library of stuff that I have studied and I still go back to from time to time. Just, I will look for consistency.
Right.
I'll check 5 sources. If I haven't had a personal experience with it, I will check 5 sources, and 3 of those sources better be the exact same answer.
Right.
I see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for congruency there. Right.
Right.
And that's even when I wrote this book, I went back. I mean, my wife would come in my study. I had books open and laid everywhere in my study. And I'm like, don't touch anything. Okay.
Right.
Because I would sit there and I'd start typing and writing about it and everything. And I'd go back and I'd check all my different references to make sure that those folks were explaining the same experiences that I had had. And if I had missed anything.
Okay.
But I did. This is my book, Natural Medicine Made Easy.
Okay.
And if I back off or whatever, there you go.
Natural Medicine Made Easy. And for
A
those who are
simple guide to the basics of natural medicine.
And for those who are dyslexic, you're probably having a fine time reading that. But
People
otherwise, it's a
people
little
like
bit
me who
backwards.
learned how to read dyslexic.
Right.
But
Yeah. So this book has I picked what I felt was the top 96 different herbs in it, and I just opened it up. This is lobelia. Lobelia is the natural form of what you find in nebulizers to open up the bronchial tubes. Okay.
okay.
And when you see the little feather on the corner, you'll know that's one of my go-to herbs.
Okay.
Okay. That's one of my favorites, my go-tos. But it talks about the common, if y'all can see this, I know it's backwards, but it says the common uses, the therapeutic actions, the parts of the plant used, common dosages, possible side effects, any indications, contraindications there, important points to remember about this, other common names, a taste profile. And for those that studied any type of herbalism and all, you'll learn about taste profile. And then I have a spot down at the bottom here for notes for people's own experience about these herbs. In the back of the book, you can go back in and look up different symptoms, and it will give you the page number of any herb that has to do or works with those symptoms.
Okay.
So it's a good cross reference from that standpoint.
So when you wrote that, what level of person did you write it for? Was it a beginner, medium, or?
I'm going to say just maybe a little bit above a beginner, because I wrote it in this format. One, because a lot of older people, it's got big print. It's easy to read. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I also put it in a spiral so that you can open it up, fold it back. You could do your research with it, because I teach classes in this. I have a class I usually teach in the spring that's called Intro to Natural Medicine. And this is one of the books I use in my class. That way people can take their own notes. And those are folks that are just starting on the journey.
Right.
And so it'll work for those. I've got friends that I know that have been doing herbs for years. That's got a copy of the book, and they go, Dwayne, I love the way you laid that out. It's really good. I use that book. So, information's information. I just tried to make it where it would cross all the different lines as much as possible. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I think, bro, that I'm going to give one more bonus question over to Dwayne. And
let's
I
send
wanted
that
to back up to Courtney. And she took us instead of
a total direction
in a little bit different direction here. And she said, I wanted to ask about your perspective on parasite, what to use or not use, please.
Well, that's becoming a buzz right now. People talking about parasites. And before I start talking about specific herbs, I grew up that we cleansed ourselves of parasites at least once or twice a year.
Right.
Because you're gonna pick them up from everywhere. Okay. And people don't understand that, but they do. Okay. There's all kinds of different parasites, but the Creator knows. And if we will pay attention to what the Creator gives us, the Creator will take care of us. You take the wintertime, for example. In the wintertime, especially if you were living an indigenous life, you were eating roots, meat, things that would preserve and keep for a long time. Okay.
Right.
And we tended to have a parasite build up over the wintertime. So the plants that come along in the spring, most of them, we also had a depletion of our vitamins and minerals from doing that. Not as much sunlight. We didn't have a lot of our greens and things. So the plants that come up in the spring are high in minerals and generally are cleansing and will help get rid of parasites. I always make a salad. I'll pick dandelion, and I'll pick chickweed, and I'll pick some dock, and about that time, red buds are coming off too, and I pull all those little buds off of red buds, and I put them together and make salads, or I just walk by and pick a handful of them and eat them, because red buds are anti-parasitic. Okay. In the fall, about this time right now, black walnut, the green hulls of black walnuts. We make a tincture and make other preparations in there. Black walnut is anti-parasitic and antifungal. I've seen it work on athlete's foot, jungle rot, Okay. And I give my goats, I'll go pick these green walnuts, and in all my watering troughs, I throw black walnuts over in my watering troughs
Hmm.
because I'm just making them a black walnut tea, and they're going to drink it, and that's going to help get rid of parasites. So, two of the main herbs that I use for parasites right now is black walnut, and another one is wormwood. Okay.
Okay. Well, there we go. That was interesting. Learned
Okay.
something.
So bro, unless you've got another question. Now, people just stay tuned because we're going to do basically a little bit of overtime here in just a little bit, because we're going to get into a little bit different topic.
Yep.
But before we do, I just kind of want to wrap up this segment, and I'll wrap that up by saying or asking Dewayne, how can people get in touch with you, and where can they find more information on Red Feather Farms?
Well, really and truly, probably the best place to get in touch with me right now is going to be through my Facebook. Red Feather Farms, okay, on Facebook or Instagram, but I check Facebook a lot more than I check Instagram. Okay. And I'll tell you folks, if you message me on that, don't think I'm going to get back to you in 5 minutes, because I look at it. I don't have my little phone going off, because my phone would be going off constantly. Okay. Right. But you can message me, and when I get time, I'll sit down and look at my Facebook. I'll answer you back. I'll get back with you that way. And what we'll probably do, depending upon if I can answer your question, then it's real simple or whatever. If not, then we may trade phone numbers. Okay. Because I can talk a lot easier than I can type.
Right.
Okay. And so we may trade numbers at that point, and then we can talk or text or whatever. But I'd rather probably, in a lot of issues, talk. Sometimes people actually will come see me. All right. And I talk to a lot of folks when we are at different events. We're going to be up in Marshville the 1st of September at the Ozark Homesteading Conference up there. I'll be in Oklahoma City the 15th at the Oklahoma State Fair at the Urban Homesteading Days there. And then we'll be at the Oklahoma Homesteading Rendezvous at the end of the month down in McAllister. I'll have a booth down there. You come by, you can visit, but if you need to talk to me before then, probably Facebook is going to be a good place. I was hoping to have my YouTube channel up and really running.
Right.
And I got a lot of videos and stuff that I've got edited, but I need to put the little, what they call thumbnails or whatever on, I'm learning all that. And we bought Starlink, and I've been 3 weeks trying to get Starlink running. They've had to send me all new equipment. That's why I'm at my wife's office tonight at the hotel talking to you guys, because
it's doing great.
Yeah.
So
And so you are a national level speaker, but I'm going to drill down on the Oklahoma Homestead Rendezvous. What can people expect? Now, this one's going to be in McAllister, Oklahoma on September
27th and 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what kind of topics? What can they expect to learn from you on that day?
I'm speaking 2 different days. One day I'll be speaking about natural remedies and herbal medicines, and it will be it'll be an introduction. Okay. We can't earn a thesis in an hour.
Right.
So, but we will be talking about how to use these plants, how to start your journey,
right,
in doing this. Okay.
So, will you have some of these herbal remedies on site at your own booth also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
I carry about 50 or 60 different tinctures with me. I have probably 100, 120 different herbs tinctured up. But I'll have 50 to 60 with me that I will have, and we can talk about those. There's also, if you're there, people say, well, how much do I need, what to do, or if I'm sure this is right for me. There's a whole thing we do called muscle testing, where I teach people how to listen to their own body to be able to find these things out. And that's something that really needs to be done in person from that standpoint. But yeah, one day I'm speaking on that one day. One day I'm speaking on making profit with meat goats. And we're going to have some of our goats there and doing some demonstrations. But, you can ask me questions about whatever all the time, and I'll flat tell you if I know, if I don't know. Okay.
Right.
There's no sense in me trying to, I'm past that in my life. I'm not going to sit there and baffle you with bull. If I don't know, I'll tell you.
Right. Okay. Real quick in the background here before we move on, Scott, would you go out on Facebook and look up Red Feather Farms? And if you don't mind, send us over a link in chat, because I can't go off of what I have now or over at the our
Right.
production right now, because it would take off what we're looking at. But
Right.
I'll have him working on the background, because I do want to drop that
The
link
link
in
in the
chat
chat.
so that people can get
Yeah.
in touch.
It's Red Feather Farms OK on
Red
Facebook.
Feather
Instagram,
Farms.
it's Red Feather Farms, but it has to have the OK on it on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah. That's
And you'll
good.
you'll see you know it's me when you see the
Yep,
little
right.
feather.
You see the
Right.
red feather. That makes
Yep.
sense.
But
So,
there you go. All right.
In the overtime,
Yes. In the
we
overtime.
are going to be talking about another topic that Dewayne is going to be covering.
Right. That he just mentioned.
when
Yep.
it's- Right. And that is meat goats
Meat goats coming up.
coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you, I hope you can stay with us for that.
Yep.
But for those of you who have chimed in on the herbal section, we really, really appreciate your questions here tonight. I hope that you found some value in what we have to offer. We do ask that you like and subscribe because the more you like and subscribe, the more we'll be able to present this type of quality interview going forward.
Right.
It just helps us get the message out.
Yeah.
And
Hit the
and we
like, hit the
appreciate it.
share,
Mhm.
subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow if you're on Facebook. Yes, it's not just, it's not because we gain from it. It's because it helps us spread these interviews, get the message out, reach more people through that. And it is an absolute necessary tool. We need your support. And like you said, bro, the chat has been awesome tonight.
Yeah.
A lot of good comments and questions and interaction, and very much appreciated. I don't know. We want to go ahead and read out what's coming up and then go to the overtime.
I think so. I
Okay.
think we need to go ahead and hit that.
Okay. Just real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with our upcoming show dates. Of course, tonight we had Dewayne Hall. Next week, July 30th, we'll have Amanda Hardcastle from HLC Longhorns. August 6th, Suzanne Gonzalez, Secret Garden Farms. August 13th, Monty Shrunk, known as the Suburban Sodbuster. August 20th, Morgan Hedricks from Wild Root Country Store. September 10th, Lauren Denny from Simply Country Ranch. And September 17th, Holly and David Lacey from Glory Hills Farmstead. So as you can see, the Farm to Table Direct Show is booked up pretty solid with shows right here on Tuesday nights. Our next one next Tuesday at 7 p.m. But if you want to enjoy getting to meet us in person, as well as Dewayne and several other people that we've mentioned and talked about, there are some upcoming events. The month of September is crazy busy. It's not that far away. Ozark Homestead Expo, Marshfield, Missouri, September 6th through the 7th at the Webster County Fairgrounds. You can get info and tickets at ozarkhomesteading.com. You can also find Ozark Homesteading on Facebook. Be sure to book a place to stay early, is what I've been told. Springfield is the nearest place that you can get hotels. Yes. I'm going to tell you, there's Dwayne's going to be there. Zach Bauer from American Homestead is going to be there. Joel Salatin's keynote speaker. Bob Ryder from Olive Branch Aquaponics. Carson Ripstein from Redmond Agriculture. Man, there's just so many more that I know are up there, and the list is way too long for me to remember them all. But if you'll go to ozarkhomesteading.com, you can get a full list of the speakers, as well as the schedule is out. And they just announced, for those who come and buy tickets, that there is going to be a screening of the movie Homestead, which is due out in December from Angel Studios. They're planning to do a screening on Friday night, after everything, all the activities are done for the day, for those who wish to stay for that. And put the Farm to Table Direct Show down as being there. Yes, we will be there.
Okay, come in just a little bit
A little
closer.
bit, little bit.
It's free
It's free.
for those who have tickets and join the expo. It's free.
And that is, and that is months in advance screening. I've seen the, you can go onto their Facebook page and stuff and see the trailer. Looks like a great movie. And so that's just an added bonus to going to the Ozark Homestead Expo. Dewayne mentioned the Urban Homestead Expo in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma State Fair, September 15th. Entry is included with the price of admission to the fair. Event is being hosted by our friends at Hidden Heights Farms and Keeping It Dutch, who are also the ones who put on the Okie Homestead Expo. That's a one-day event. It's got very select speakers and very select topics dealing specifically with urban homesteading and what you can do in an urban environment. So definitely worth being there. You've heard us mention the Oklahoma Homestead Rendezvous in McAllister, Oklahoma at the Southeast Expo Center, September 27th and 28th. We're a sponsor of this event. I will also be speaking. You can get more info on their Facebook page, Oklahoma Homestead Rendezvous. And I know we are still needing volunteers. So, reach out that way. That it takes an army to put this on, and
Yes.
as much help as possible. This is an inaugural event, a first time out, and we believe in it. We believe in what it's for, and it's a great way as a volunteer to get to know everybody and to be able to get involved in this community and have a good time being out there at that rendezvous.
And what I want to interject there,
Mhm.
just real quick, if you've got a Facebook or a YouTube channel or any channel, if one of the ways to grow your channel is to make friends. One of the best ways you can make friends is volunteering for your local expo.
Right. So we will be out at these events. So if you see us, come say hi. We'll be in our t-shirts. And so come out, visit with us, say hi. We'll have some form of a booth or something at each one of those events. Well, not at the Urban Expo. We're just going up there in support of the community and to enjoy listening to some good quality speakers as well. I will say, and this one's not on my notes, but I know this one's out September 21st. Oklahoma Donkey Dairy is having their Hee Haw Health Days. So you can look them up, Oklahoma Donkey Dairy or Donkey de Dulce. They have that on there, and how you can buy tickets. It's really cheap. It's like $5. They've got a lot of stuff for the kids. There's a lot of medical information about Panda and about the benefits of donkey milk and that type of thing. But Walt and Sandra Treywick, they're awesome people up there, and they've got a great story. But that's the 21st of September. So September is a packed out month for a ton of stuff to do. Bro, that is what I have got on my end of life.
All right. Before we get started in the overtime, I hope you can stick around just a little bit with us, Dewayne, to talk a little bit about goat, meat goats. But before we do that, it's burning up in our studio right now.
Yep.
Can you reach over there and turn that AC on for us? It's going to get a little bit
noisy,
noise in the
listen,
background.
Folks, those who got in the chat, again, thank you for your comments. And Dewayne, thanks for the information on the medicine and answering people's questions to the best of your ability with that, and what was a safe way to do that, I think, and an ethical way to do it as well.
Yeah.
And so, folks, stick around for just a few more minutes.
All right.
Here we are.
Right. So we got the AC on.
We got AC, so it might get a little loud.
But that's all right. So, Dewayne, what are we going to be talking about? What do you think that the audience needs to know about raising meat goats? Now, we talked a little bit about it the other day. I don't have my sheet with me, but that's okay. I bet you remember everything we talked about.
I've slept since then, guys.
Well, I will tell you, I know what I remember, and that was the fact that there's two livestock you can raise that are sustainable on a homestead or on a property. One of those is chickens, and one of those was goats.
Yes, they are the two most sustainable in there because they forage for themselves so well. Okay, and if you let those of you that have raised chickens or ever eaten any chickens, if you eat a cage raised or a farm raised chicken, they don't taste as well as one that's been raised out there on the pasture. that's been able to
Right.
forage and graze for itself. Not only is that the taste difference, but you're going to have a richer vitamin, a more nutritious meat, because that animal is foraging and looking for what the creator is providing it to eat. Now, you may have some chicken pellets, and I do. I've got chicken pellets and stuff in there. You know, it's a self feeder. But you open the door to my chicken coop, and my chickens are flying out. You know, they're hunting for bugs and they're hunting for scratchings and everything. Okay, they would rather eat outside than they had inside. Okay,
Right.
so you're going to get a more nutritious meat that way. Okay, and chickens are fairly easy animal to raise. Okay,
Right.
I call them the gateway animal to a homestead, because
Right.
everybody starts off raising chickens. Okay,
Headed there myself, working on a chicken
yeah,
tractor.
I've I was raised on a farm, guys. I've raised just about everything. I've raised rabbits, I've raised pigs, I've raised cattle, I've raised horses, I've raised llamas, I've had, you just name it, I've probably raised it. Okay,
Right.
I've raised sheep, and I like sheep, and there's certain ground that sheep's really good for. Okay, but where I live in Oklahoma, I live in the Osage Hills. We got a lot of scrub brush, we got a lot of weeds and woody plants and things like that. Well, that's what goats love.
Right.
And so we started raising goats. We had goats on the place, mainly to help clean up.
Right. They're good
And
at that.
so, yeah, they're awesome. I mean, I've even got pictures of where we had hot wire fence and had the goats, and a wildfire came through and stopped at the hot wire fence because of the grazing that the goats had. They didn't graze it down to bare ground,
Right.
but they had taken and eaten the leaves off the ground. They like those. There was green grass there, but they're used a lot too in fire control. So
Right.
the more I got to working with goats and the more I got to learning about them, they're the second easiest meat to digest behind lamb.
Okay.
They are one of the most nutrient dense meats. They're one of the highest in iron and highest in your other minerals. So that's one of the things that moved me over to it, because I eat a lot of deer. I love
Right.
deer meat, and because it's a much healthier meat, it's a much cleaner meat. The beef
Right.
that I eat is all grass raised, okay, and so goats just happen to fall right in there great for me, because it's a more heart healthy. They're just not as much fat in it. Now you got to cook it a little bit different, okay.
Right.
You can't cook it hard and fast. You got to cook it low and slow.
Right.
But it's so much easier. If I was raising cattle and I had a 1,200-pound steer, guys, I don't have the facility to
Right.
be able to process a steer like that.
And most
But
people don't, I think.
no, they don't. But I can process a goat pretty easy and pretty quick.
Right.
And I can keep enough of it, in a refrigerator if I got it, or in a cold box or something like that, enough till we've eaten that whole animal.
Right.
If I had to can the meat for a 1,200-pound steer, that meat would go bad before I could get it all canned.
Right.
But if I'm
Yeah.
canning a goat, I can get that done. Okay.
Right.
So it just made sense to me to do that. So I looked at different breeds. I researched a lot. I looked at the Spanish. I looked at the Kiko. I looked at the Boer. I looked at Savannahs. I looked at crosses between those breeds. I looked at the Tennessee meat goat. I looked at the Texmaster. And what I actually started off with, and I tell everybody else, don't go buy $100 goats if you can find them. Okay, it's hard to find now, but don't go buy $1,000 goat, because there's going to be a learning curve.
Right.
Okay? You're just going to have to learn. So it's a lot easier to lose $100 goat than it is $1,000 goat. Okay,
Sure.
so buy some and then start building up your breeding stock, and that's what we did. We started off with Boer Kiko cross. Okay. I've had full blood boars. I don't want the Boer people mad at me, but I'm sorry. They have too much problem with parasites, too many feet problems. I got to trim their feet too many times. I had 2 full blood boars on my place that I was using in our breeding program, and I lost one of those does this year, barber pole worms. I couldn't get her over it, and I think I'm pretty good at that. And you look at the rest of my Texmaster does out there and my Texmaster Cross does, and they were fat and sassy. Nothing wrong with them. They're just so much more parasite resistant. And you got to think, how much input do you want to put into these animals? The least amount of input, the more profit.
Right.
Plus, the Texmaster is actually a combination over several generations of a Tennessee meat goat and a boar. And with the right breedings, I do not know. As far as I know, there's only 2 people in the United States that know that formula. The lady that actually started the breed and the lady that worked with her, which is my mentor, Pat Cotton. And Pat hasn't told me that breeding, that combination, and I'm not going to ask because I'm not there yet. When she decides she wants to tell me, she'll tell me. Okay, I don't know. All right. But we have found, because of the genetics and what they've done with this, there is a 4-to-1 muscle to bone ratio.
And that's huge.
Yes. I can take my Texmasters to processing, and I will get 36 to 40% of live weight packaged out, deboned.
And I know that you don't get that at rate at much else.
Well, cattle's 30, 33 on good cattle. Okay. And I run the numbers. I mean, I know, I weigh mine a day after they're born. I either get a 60 or a 90-day weight. I get a 120-day weight. I get a weaning weight. I get a weight when they go to processing, before they go across, the slaughterhouse, once they're hanging on the rail, and once they're packaged. I know my numbers all the way through. And they have proven better. And I can tell you, those that have more Texmaster influence, I have a lot more meat. Those that have some of the other influence more, the carcass doesn't yield as well. Okay. So from a homesteading perspective, you're not eating a lot of bone. Now, you can make bone broth and things like that, but you're not eating a lot of bone. You're eating muscle, and that's what you want to produce. And so that's what we do. I enjoy them. Now, I would also caution people, make sure you got good fences.
Yes. Good fences.
Okay. Oh, good fences. I thought you said dentures.
Fences. Make sure you got good fences, because goats are smart. When I first got the place, I had some holes in some fences, and they would go through one particular hole until I found it.
Right.
Once I found it and fixed it, then they would move to another one. I find it and fix it, then they'd move to a third one. They wouldn't go through all 3 of them and let me find them.
Right.
They were like, I'm not telling you about the rest of those holes. We're just going to use this one till you figure it out. So they're extremely smart. Okay?
Right.
But that's part of that runs back into my health thing. If I can eat a more nutritious, more healthy meat, that's going to help my body. And I'm going to have a better immune system out of that.
Right.
Plus, homesteading, it just makes sense.
Right.
They're going to eat what other animals won't.
How much land would you have to raise a meat goat as compared to a cow or a steer?
Generally, the rule of thumb is you can raise 5 goats to what you can raise 1 cow.
And how does that compare dollar and cents wise when it comes to your actual cost for putting food on the table?
I'm going to make more money on goats than people are going to make on cattle.
Right.
Because just think about this. If a mama's going to produce, most mothers are going to produce you at least twins. Okay. You'll have some singles. Okay. And if I've got 5 goats, let's say 5 goats, because 5-to-1, I got 5 goats, I'm going to have 10 babies.
Right.
Okay. And I want to sell that goat at, where's my phone at here? I didn't make sure I can run these numbers off the top of my head here. Let's just say I get $3 a pound times 90 pounds. That's $270. Okay. Right. And that doe will provide me 1.8 of that. times 1.8. So she's provided me, what's that, $540, okay, at a sale.
Mhm.
Right.
It's gonna let's just say $500, and it's gonna cost me about in hay and feed and everything else that because I'm putting feed into them now to produce more quality. She's
Right.
gonna cost me around $250. Okay, so I'm gonna make about $250 per head profit on that times 5. That's about $1,250. You can't raise a calf out on a cow for that.
No.
Now, right now, cattle prices are high. You might do it right now. Cattle prices are really high, but normally, no. I got to have better fences than I do for cattle. I can't run
Right.
goats on barbed wire. Okay,
Right.
but I don't have to have the expensive infrastructure that you have to raise cattle to work them.
Right.
They're so much easier to work. You can work them by hand.
Right.
Now, I've got a little squeeze chute, things like that, but right now I've got 90 head on the place.
Right.
So-
Yeah, that's quite a bit of herd there.
So
Yeah.
what would you say to people who says, as opposed to buying it in a grocery store, my meat products, compare and contrast the cost of buying something, say, from a larger retail outlet as to what it would cost for you to raise it and put it on your table? Is
Oh,
it cheaper or just healthier?
It depends on where you want to quantify cheap. See, I look at it this way: we either pay for our health now, or we
Yeah.
pay for our health later.
Right. Okay.
Makes
Okay.
sense. Right.
That's just
How mu-
like if you don't want to eat goat meat, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, work with some farmer rancher out there that you can buy good quality. You see how they feed them, everything else. It's going to be cheaper than you go buy it in the store, and it's
Right.
also going to be so much more better for you than
Right.
what you're going to get going. Guys, I know what we did on the commercial side. I worked on that side. I know
Right.
how much hormone we gave them cattle to get them up there. If they didn't care, just run them on. I know how much antibiotics they put in those things. Okay,
Right.
you're eating all that.
Right
You
there
know,
it is, folks. You
Right
got
there.
it. You
That's
got it
it.
firsthand from somebody
Yeah.
who's actually
Right.
been in
the
that
bit-
commercial side of things
Right. I mean,
and
right.
have seen what happens.
Right. And he goes, well, it goes back to what say, you are what you eat. You
Right.
know,
That's exactly
and,
right.
Let your food be your medicine.
You know,
And I really take your point with you can pay now or pay later.
absolutely.
And when we say pay later, obviously, we're talking about,
Sure.
if you eat unhealthy, you'll be unhealthy, and the doctor bills will probably be a whole lot more
So
expensive.
say than the food was if you'd have just
Yeah.
done it right the first time. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
I've wanted to get in. I mean, goats are a part of my plan because I don't have the acreage to run cattle. And as well as having worked in the poultry business currently and having worked around the cattle, transporting and taking them, picking them up, doing those type of things, being in the cattle business a little bit. As you said, the cost and profitability margins are razor thin in both of those actually. And commercial poultry is a razor thin margin. The goat to me, because of, like I said, it's a little higher now because it seems it's more popular, but it's still a lower cost entry a lot of times than other herd animals like that. Now I've lost 150. I've lost $150 buck. Me and my son-in-law went in. It was either somebody got him a buck or coyote got food. One of the two happened. I'm not sure, but did not know they are a social creature, and you don't just buy one; you buy a pair. And we bought one and put it in a pen, and I learned that it doesn't matter how good the fence is; they will
They're
find a
gone.
way. Yeah,
Right.
and we
Well,
lost.
you're just talking about that's an expensive lesson. Let me just share this with everyone because I learned about a $10,000 lesson this last year.
Oh,
Ouch.
oh, Ethel.
Yeah, I killed my number one buck, probably the second best Texmaster buck in the United States.
Uh-oh.
Okay, and a lot of us have been doing this for years. But he'd got sick the year before. The vets couldn't figure anything out. I mean, like $2,000 in vet bills, couldn't figure it out. I finally got him over it. He was doing great. And then he got sick about the same time again the next year. And he did recover that time.
Right.
And I mean, we had expert goat vets trying to figure this thing out. I mean, experts from all over the United States. I finally figured it out. When I went back to looking at all my notes and when I wormed and worked and all that stuff, and I had given him orally as a drench, I'd given him pour-on wormer. We do that a lot.
Right.
But his system wouldn't handle it. And essentially, I cooked him chemically from his mouth to his rear, and I shut his organs down.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Right. Very expensive lesson.
Yes. So, you know, there's some things you learn. Even where I'm at right now, there's some things you learn. The further up the flagpole, them lessons get more expensive.
Right. Right.
You know? And so I wished it hadn't happened, but it happened. So you know what?
Right.
I learned it.
Right.
I'm trying to tell everybody about it right now. If you do it, beware.
Right.
Right.
I lost an outstanding buck. You guys were at the Okie Homestead Conference.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the big buck that I had in the pen there at our booth? Big muscle son of a gun. You know, he was a half brother to my buck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I get amazed. I've got a guy that I know that has a herd of goats, and I think he's got La Manchas is what he has, but totally. But his buck, and I remember when he got him, it was a buck, and he had a handful of does. He's got a nice herd right now, but that buck is huge and very protective of his herd. My friend has very little work to actually do. That buck tends to take care of business all the way around, but it is impressive how big and strong they can get.
Yeah. Now that's one thing I like about the Tex Masters. I've been in other herds, and I've had other bucks that when those does are in heat, boy, you don't want to get around that, because that buck, he'll get you. That's his girls, you know.
Yeah.
These Tex Masters, they're so laid back. They don't care. You know, you walk up and grab a hold of him. Now, you probably don't want to hold him long because he's been peeing on himself and stinky, you know, because they put that cologne on, you know. But they're so laid back, you know. I love that about them. I won't have a mean one on my place. It's too risky, you know.
Right.
But I got to get rid of about 20 of them right now. My wife she's put her foot down.
Uh-oh.
She said, you got 20 females, you're going to need to find another home for. She said, we're feeding too many.
So what is good eating weight?
I like 90 pounds.
90 pounds is a good eating weight. How long does it take to get them there?
Oh, anywhere from, some of them might reach that at 9 or 10 months. Some of them are 12 to 14.
Okay.
Depends on the breeds too. But you know, a 90 pound goat here that's got a lot of bone versus a 90 pound goat that has a 4-to-1 muscle to bone ratio. There's a lot of difference in what you get out of it. You know? So you got to think about that. But the market likes them about 65 or 70.
Right.
Now, a lot of that market's changing, but I have found that you got about the same amount of bone, about the same amount of skin, about the same amount of internal organs at 65 pounds as you do at 90.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between 65 and 90 is pretty much muscle.
Right. And
so I'm going to feed them a little longer, and I'm going to get more meat out of this deal.
I see. And hypothetically, or not so hypothetically, if an individual, say, like me, or how would they say it in psychology? A friend I know.
Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
Yep. Okay.
If he wasn't into raising that, but you were raising it, would it be profitable for that individual, not just financially, but I mean also health-wise, to purchase from somebody else already ready, and they just take it and have it processed?
Yes.
And
oh yeah. I did that for a long time. A lot of people would come and buy animals off the farm. A lot of other people do that. or I might even carry them to the processor for them. Now they have to go
Right.
pick them up and pay for the processing, but
Sure.
I,
Right.
as a service, a lot of times I would pay them to do that. Uh, we now have our own USDA meat company, and
Right.
we're in a lot of the farm hub stores and things like
Okay.
that.
I
And
think I've
that's
seen that.
Yeah.
Right. I think I've seen some of that on your channel.
yeah,
Uh,
and we'll
yeah.
have some of this meat. We'll have this meat up in Missouri, and we'll have it down in McAllister. We'll have a
Okay.
freezer there, and we'll have
Well, there
goat
you
meat.
go. There we go. You,
All
you
right.
get a
Looking
chance to get
forward to
some
that.
right there. I know I've had it. Like I said, we shared, when we were talking the other day, I've had it several different ways, from barbecue and smoked and curry and a lot of different ways. And I really enjoy the goat meat myself. I mean,
Well,
it's,
we make
like I said,
4
it is a
flavors
little
of
more.
broths
Oh, okay. 4 flavors of broth. Okay. Even better. Yes.
Mhm.
besides
Like I
all
said,
the other cuts. Yeah.
right. It
Right.
is a different way of cooking. You got to relearn how to cook them, but man, it's tasty. I know that. So I love it on barbecue myself. But um,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Right.
It's my favorite though is if you let me have my way, I'm gonna cook a whole goat,
right.
and I'm gonna cook it in a pit in the ground.
Oh, right, right. Yes.
That's the way I'm gonna
Yeah.
cook it.
There you
But
go.
that
I bet
takes a lot of time, and
effort and
I don't
energy.
have a lot of time to do that.
Right. Well, just a question. I mean, without, ballpark range, for a person to get into, say, like the Tex Master, um, you know, what kind of, I know you said go with like $100 one to learn, go with a cheaper breed to learn,
Yeah.
and I'm taking that to heart because I need to learn. Uh, but I mean, when somebody's looking to get into it, whether it's for their own personal meat or if they're looking into a profitability factor, I mean, what kind of numbers, I guess, would somebody need to be looking at on
Well, if
purchase?
you're just gonna raise one to take the processing yourself, those are gonna be cheaper because that's a terminal animal. They're going to freezer camp. Okay.
Right.
If you're buying a breeding stock, that animal's probably going to run anywhere from 500 to 1,000 to $1,500 for a female, depending on if she's got registered or papered, how much, if she's 50% or 75, or the quality of her. Okay,
Right.
it's if people come to my farm, I price my animals by their quality.
Right.
You know, and if I've got some that may have papers that you can get papers on. But she's gonna sell cheaper if I don't like her. She's gonna sell cheaper, so you're not gonna get papers.
Right. I
Because
get you.
I'm just telling you, she's a grade commercial.
Right.
Okay. But if she's really good, now if I have two outstanding individuals, outstanding, and one you can follow the paper trail and ancestry on, and one you
Yeah.
can't, the one you can follow the paper trail is always going to bring more money just because you can
Right.
follow that ancestry.
I
Right.
see.
A
Okay.
buck is going to run you probably a good buck. A good buck can run you anywhere from 1,500 to I've seen people's bucks 30, 40,000 for show bucks.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
I got sent pictures the other day. I sold a little old buck. He was a 50% Tex Master buck. He was a good little son of a gun, and he went up north to a weather breeding program. And they sent me pictures the other day. This little buck, he was born March the 29th. And he went in for the final drive of Grand Champion.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking 4 months old. And she
Right.
said
Wow.
he got beat because there was older bucks, older weathers in there. But he got beat. She sent me pictures. I was pretty excited about how my
Yeah.
buck passed his genetics on.
Right.
You
That's a
know,
good deal. But,
and they were real excited. They've kept some females out of him and stuff. So
right.
that
Well,
doesn't hurt the advertising.
no, no, not at all. Marketing side is real good there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I know there's breeds that people can get into at a lower price when they're starting out. Whether that's a key, whether that's boar or that's Kiko or I don't know. The different ones. I know like some are milk and some are more meat oriented. And
If I
so
was going to run a straight commercial operation, I would probably run a Boer Kiko Cross doe in a Tex
Okay.
Master buck. That would probably, if I was straight commercial, that'd probably be my dream team right there.
Okay.
Everybody's got their own thoughts, but
Right.
I've had those. I've had those Kiko Cross does, and I'm gonna tell you what, they're fantastic mothers,
That's what I've read. That's what I've read. They're
and
really good mothers.
they give really good milk,
Right.
and nothing grows any better than it does on mama's milk.
That's right. And so anyway, well, that's just a little sample, folks, I think, of what we'll be able to get at the Oklahoma Homestead Rendezvous. And I'm not sure. I mean, I know some of the topics may be a little different at Ozark and at Urban Expo. But I know that's particularly Oklahoma Homestead Rendezvous, that this subject of goats for profit, meat goats for profit. And so that's just a little tease, folks, of kind of what you can learn. I mean, I'm interested in it because I've been interested in goats. My wife, she doesn't share my enthusiasm for the goat, but I know what I've got to do on the space I have. So anyway, Dwayne, we appreciate the information, man. We appreciate the knowledge. It's been awesome. My hat size grew a little bit with the knowledge expanded tonight. So I always like, if I learn something, I feel like it's a good show. I don't care what else happened. If I learn something, because if I learn something, that means somebody out there probably learned something too. So,
Well, I hope you guys do. That's what I want to do, is I want to share my experiences and what I have learned. And not to say that your experiences are all going to be the same as mine,
right,
but I know what I have learned over a period of time.
right.
And hopefully that'll help people. You still going to have to figure your own plan out, but don't fall in the same pothole I did.
Yeah. There you go, Courtney. Expanded knowledge guaranteed. That's a fact. Right. Anyway, Dwayne, any parting comments or any final thoughts?
Well, guys, I'm gonna come back here and say a little bit about y'all and what you're doing. You're putting people out there and in front of folks, people that are doers,
right?
Not just talkers, but people that are doers. And you're bringing those folks there, and you're making people aware of those, that information that's out there. And I appreciate that, because that's what we need today. People are wanting to live a more sustainable lifestyle, and they need to find out how to do that. And I appreciate what you guys are doing with your YouTube channel and getting those and interviewing those people out there, and what you stand for, and what you're doing. So hopefully, I'll have my Starlink here this next week, and
right.
We'll have to do it again.
And you guys can watch a lot of videos on what we do on our YouTube channel.
I have been out. There is one video.
I got one video up. It took forever to load, so that's one reason we're getting Starlink. But I've got quite a bit. You'll find things on bees, goats, herbal stuff, foraging, building things, repairing things on the farm. Our whole byline is homesteading on a budget.
Right. There you go.
And most of us that are homesteading on a budget.
That my entire existence is that exact right there, on a budget.
Yep.
But anyway, well, bro, anything?
No, just wanted to once again say thank you to Dewayne for being so gracious to share his knowledge with us.
And his time, definitely.
Not we don't only just learn, but I feel like in this community, really want to shout out to everybody that's been participating in the growth of this community, and how building this community is really important. And we actually believe that we're stronger together, and we actually believe that we are the solution to a lot of the problems that we see going on locally in our state, in the United States, and as a matter of fact, in the entire world. Right. And the homesteading community exhibits everything, I believe, that is the solution to those problems. And Dewayne, you are an exceptional illustrator of that very fact. And once again, like I said, we just want to thank you for showing up and sharing your information and the knowledge that you've got, because that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to pull this community together, and it's going to bring things a little bit back home. And as we, and as one of the things that we say is take another link out of the chain, that food supply chain, shorten it up a little, get to know your local farmers, and get some local information, because there's a wealth of knowledge and a lot of it that we almost lost. Okay.
Yep.
We've
Yep.
become dangerously close to losing it.
Yeah.
And though the things that's happened to us in the past, especially over the past since 2020, you know, it, as bad as it was, it's got some silver linings in that cloud, and that silver lining is people have
Waking
woken
up.
up a little bit.
That's
They're
it.
waking up and they're realizing that we've got to source our food a little differently for our own health and also for our own security.
So
If
we
you
go.
don't mind, I'd like to, my last words here, I'd like to put a challenge out there for folks.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe that for things to change, people have to change.
Right.
So be the change you want to see.
Absolutely.
That's it.
100% right there.
Yeah.
You know, it is it is absolutely that. I mean, if you that's honestly that part of what we got us even started, was seeing what we've seen and not being able to keep our mouth shut about it.
Right.
And stumbling into the, and I say stumbling because that's literally what it was, stumbling into the homestead community.
Right. Yeah.
And finding people like yourself that are living the solution. And that's what it matters so much. And so, yes, be the change that you want to see. And that's it. Well, Dewayne, again, thank you. Thanks to everybody that was in the chat. This has made a great show. We haven't pulled one like this one in a while, actually, but
Right.
it's been a lot of
Worked
fun. And I've enjoyed it. Like I said, a lot of knowledge. We gave you the shows coming up next week. Amanda Hardcastle from Hardcastle or HLC Longhorns going to be talking about her cattle. That's next Tuesday, 7:00, right here on Facebook and on YouTube. So go ahead and set your calendars now. Make your reminders for that. Next week you'll be seeing us. And I tell you what, guys, great show. And I tell you, I'm just going to roll us right on out of here. So until next time, this is the Farm to Table Direct Show. Remember, we are #stronger together. It's only through the community. It's only through the strength of each other that we can overcome the things of this world. Be gracious to each other. Be kind. Be thankful for our Creator, God above. And as we always say, prepare for the unexpected and keep it local.